And here we go. At the top left, we got our red Protoss. Oh, sorry. Bottom right, we have our blue Terran from Dragon Phoenix Gaming is Kira.
And we have the red Protoss up in the top left from Shopify Rebellion, HARSTEM. They go so quick with the banners sometimes.
Yeah.
All right, this is going to be a very interesting matchup for me personally. I've been keeping up a lot with HARSTEM because I was an early subscriber, and to see his channel take off is very rewarding. But at the same time, he has been putting in a lot of hours into the game competitively as well. So he's been having, pretty decent showings just sort of in the EU scene as well as, of course, here in the World Team League.
Yeah, he has been a long-time player for sure, and he's one of those players that you would never really consider him as the favorite to win a major tournament, but at the same time, that he's one of those players that can easily take a game or a series or two off of those top players and kind of provide kind of a bump in the road for them, and maybe even possibly eliminate them once it gets to the playoffs. But he's also one of those Protoss players that kind of is a thinker. He really kind of thinks about the game and kind of try to kind of I guess study off of other Protosses and try to copy and emulate their playstyle as well. So he's very much of a thinker of sorts compared to, let's say, back in the day where, like, let's say White Raw, who is more of a reactionary kind of Protoss.
Yeah.
I mean, White Raw was also a thinker, but he would react. He was more a reactionary one. While HARSTEM, he is more of a kind of a
proactive.
He's more strategic and thinks about his build orders and stuff.
Right. Okay, so the probe is going to confirm that it was a reactor first into double marine production. HARSTEM, on the other hand, he is going to go for the Stargate as his tech of choice. Now, is this going to be just a scouting Stargate? Do you think he's going to commit to it? I feel like in this matchup, might be more common just to scout with it and then go into some other tech.
If there was any other map, I would say maybe it's just for scouting and maybe harassment purposes, but this map is one of those maps where it could be a pretty short rush distance, so things like a 3 racks push, it could be quite dangerous for HARSTEM, but I don't believe it was a 3 racks opening, was it? Yeah, it's not a 3 racks opening, so I don't think it's a push. So yeah, it looks like HARSTEM is just going to go ahead and make Phoenixes, knowing as a Adept did scout that there was not a push coming.
Right. Poor Shade. I'm not sure if HARSTEM meant to complete that Shade earlier. Maybe he was preoccupied or something, or maybe he did intend to complete it, but in any case, he did have to force the recall on that Adept. Not the biggest loss ever. I mean, still some energy, so. Now, one thing that's interesting about HARSTEM is he is a very sort of visible kind of player. And what I mean by that is that he wears his heart on his sleeve. You can tell what he's thinking. Now, of course, we do have emotional players such as Creator, but I feel like here, just look at their face cams, right? They're perfect foils for each other. Both have that high focus, but Kira is very stable, very, kind of icy in that way. You can't really tell what he's thinking. HARSTEM, you can usually tell what he's thinking, especially in big fights or big losses or big wins or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why I'm loving these players' cams, especially when in HARSTEM games. In the end, when he wins, has a good win against a good player, like he cheers, like he's got his fist pumping in the air.
Right.
Always great to see it.
Now, speaking of victories, this is definitely a small victory here in the early game. We have the Phoenixes catching not only the Widowmines, but potentially this medevac. Yep, there it goes. So Kier not too happy about that lack of damage and actually, in fact, taking a lot of damage on his side.
And there might be potential more damage here as HARSTEM is going to fly in with his Phoenixes, may pick off an SAV or two, or maybe a transferring unit there.
Oh, wow. That reaction time was spot on. I mean, as soon as the Phoenixes were within visionary range of the Marines, they turned back.
Yeah, these players at the top pro side usually have good reaction time, unlike us bronze players.
Oh, definitely. Now, I don't know about you, but I feel like it's because I'm so preoccupied with what I'm currently doing. I do see the alert, and it does register, but whether or not it's conscious or subconscious, like, I basically choose to ignore it and continue doing what I'm doing. And that's kind of like a habit that you pick up when you're ascending the ranks. And eventually you get to maybe Diamond or Masters, and you realize that that's a habit you have to unlearn, is what I've noticed. Because, you know, on average, everybody has pretty good reaction time. It's just what you do with that time.
Yeah, just making sure you're efficient with your APM.
Right, right. You know, this is a little bit unexpected, I have to admit. I did not think that HARSTEM was going to commit to the Phoenixes, but it looks like he is going to a Phoenix Colossus sort of army. Now, what do you think of this composition? I feel like it's kind of old school. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, it's one of those old school composition, and it has held up pretty well throughout the time of StarCraft 2. It's a just great, overall great army composition because you got control of the air a little bit with the Phoenixes, and then you also have the control of the ground with the Colossus splash damage. And
Right.
if the Terran player does go for Vikings, then there's a kind of a weird scenario where when you engage against the Protoss army, do you focus fire those Vikings on the Phoenixes or do you focus them on the Colossus? And that's always a conundrum for the Terran player during those big engagements.
Right, because either way, you are expected to take some sort of loss, so it forces the Terran player to make a somewhat lose-lose situation.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
choice, yeah.
Exactly.
But the thing is, don't you also have to buffer the Colossi with some other units? Like, for example, we see on the ground we have some sentries, some stalkers, some zealots, because otherwise, if the bio, let's say there are marauders or widowmines or whatever, or tanks, right, especially tanks, what are their targets? They can't be the Colossi the whole time, otherwise they just melt, right?
Right. So you got to make sure you have enough gateways there. Maybe not as much gateways as maybe a swarm Protoss, swarm toss would go for, but you need some decent amount of gateway units to help defend at the ground on the but behind the Colossus. And you can see there things like sentries with the force fields can kind of zone out those Marine Marauders so that the Colossus can retreat back into safety if need be.
Yeah. So we finally see charge starting up, almost right as about +1 attack is about to finish. HARSTEM continually making use of these Phoenixes. So this entire mid-game, Kier has not really been able to push out. I feel like he wanted to do a timing earlier, but he just constantly got sort of thwarted by the Phoenixes moving around on the map. And because the Phoenixes were out and about, of course the Colossi were able to follow. So only now is he going to do a +1/+1 timing, it seems like.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for the Terran to move out when there are Phoenixes flying around. So things like drops can easily be caught by the Phoenixes. So, I mean, gotta give props to HARSTEM. He has done a really good job being very proactive with those Phoenixes. He's not just setting them back at home. He's actually, just dabbing in, poking in here and there, seeing where the army is, as well as if he can kind of pick off any units as well. So, HARSTEM having a great eye and vision. And look at the map. He's like even adding in spotter pylons as well. He's pretty much has the vision of his half of the map.
Yeah, I was about to say, of course, as you know, Snoopy, I'm learning Protoss myself, and one thing that I love doing is spreading my Protoss creep. You know, like putting out those pylons, maybe even a couple of observers, although I like to reserve the observers for the opponent side of the map. But what I mean by that is what HARSTEM is doing here is he's leveraging his map control. He's allowing his army to stay out on the map in the middle where he doesn't want to put spotted pylons. Whereas the spotted pylons are going to go off to the sides, that way they can sort of cover the flank. And I really like that.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes your Phoenixes can't be somewhere, and you know, because Phoenixes can't be at two places at once, you know, there is a odd chance that you miss a drop or two, and those spotter pylons, or even maybe some spotter zealots, can help cover that area, and so that it kind of tells you if you need to recall your Phoenixes and snipe or kind of hunt them down, the medevacs.
Yeah.
But here we go. Looks like HARSTEM gonna go ahead and ooh, nice catch there.
Wow. Unfortunate timing for the Ghost, which actually ran into the Nova right next to the tank. Round 2. Oh, is it gonna get anything? Wow. Okay, that actually is pretty decent value. Those are the more expensive Marauders, of course. We do have a bit of a Zealot run by over at the 4th base as well. Liberators have just popped. They're about to siege up, so finally HARSTEM is going to be forced to rotate over to the now morphing planetary. Ooh, nice EMPs. Disruptors are going to send out their Novas. Oh, not going to be able to get anything. Cure with the excellent splits. Wow.
Yeah, really well done there. I mean, I guess the Terran players have a lot of practice splitting up against Banelings, so splitting against Disruptor is not the most difficult thing. Although sometimes it is if the Protoss have a bunch, but
yeah. Wow, I love this. I mean, what is that pylon doing there? I love that. That was probably a pylon from way earlier in the game, just to keep track of where the bases are. So, yeah, that splitting was pretty key. I mean, Banelings, of course, they detonate pretty much instantly. Novas, there is that gray timer bar, so both players are aware of when exactly they're going to go off. But yeah, I mean, it seems like Cure is holding for now. He was down quite a bit of supply earlier. These Liberators doing some work. Look at that. But yeah, Cure is able to hold on. He's able to max out just like his opponent, and he's managing to build up a little bit of a bank as well. Not anything large as you know, HARSTEM's bank, for example, but still pretty decent. Look at that, HARSTEM even mining out the mineral wall to get more surface area. I like that move a lot.
Yeah, that's gonna provide him an additional avenue to attack Cure from. However, Cure holding quite firmly as these Liberators are kind of zoning out some of these Stalkers as well as Disruptors. So kind of difficult for HARSTEM to kind of break it through.
Okay, so he's getting a little bit of damage, right? We do see some more Disruptor hits. Cure maybe a little bit off guard. But also because of that aggressive blink, it gave HARSTEM a lot more space to work with. Now Cure, I believe he's built... No, actually, I'm sorry, I was mistaken. I thought he was building another command center because I was looking at the minimap, but I don't think he is. On the other hand, HARSTEM is going up to a 6th base, so he is definitely trying to make sure that he continues containing his opponent. He might be going a little bit too aggressive right now, though. Look at that. Stalker's taking some damage on the way out. But yeah, HARSTEM is definitely making the right moves. He just needs to make sure that he continues trading and not just losing things for free.
Oh,
and
wow.
What is this? Oh, that hurts. Oh, man. But yeah, like, what? HARSTEM is going for a, we're gonna call it the long form cannon rush.
Yeah. You know, it's I mean, he does have the resources to fortify the middle ground, and this is going to be a crucial area because this is probably where the both players are going to come through in and out as they try to attack their opponent.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, I'm a little bit worried here for HARSTEM because he's stuck on this Stalker Disruptor composition, but the Liberator count are rising. He needs something besides these Stalkers and Disruptors. He needs like maybe carriers or something to snipe down these Liberators.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look at that. He is just not able to find an angle. Actually, Cure is able to push far out enough such that he can start taking a 5th base. Now, we do have a bit of a run by to the south as well, so HARSTEM is going for a double-pronged attack. But, oh, look at that. It's going to be the Phoenix Colossus. The Phoenix Colossus run by while the Stalker Disruptor engages the main army. I love this game. But yeah, I'm totally with you. You know, it's about time for HARSTEM to start spending his gas bank in something a bit higher tech. These Liberators are just forcing him back at pretty much every angle. Oh man, these Disruptors, they are getting pretty decent value. Some of them are falling, but now the Vikings, as we see on the second screen, they are going to clean up the rest of these Colossi. Maybe this is the turning point that HARSTEM finally looks for another unit composition. But as I say that, he's putting down more cannons and he's building up a higher Stalker count, so I'm not too sure.
Yeah, looks like he is going to stick with this for the time being. He did do a lot of damage onto the left side with those Colossus and Phoenixes, which is pretty surprising. I mean, there was nothing there to really, defend them below the Colossus and the Phoenixes. So if Cure had moved his army towards the left side and cleared that out, I mean, that could have actually been a really good maneuver for him to come back into the game. But here we have it, another attack onto the right side with these DTs. We'll take another base out, and this is gonna really keep Cure's economy at bay.
Yeah, you can see that Cure is building up a bit of a gas bank, but because he's on bio, that is not necessarily the resource that he needs right now. At the same time, HARSTEM is still maxed out. He did spend his mineral bank as well, so he might be a little bit more on edge than he was earlier in the game. You know, that is just a ridiculous amount of Liberators, so obviously you can't do much about that. Oh, look at that. The DT's just barely not in time to snipe down the missile turrets. But look at that, the Stalkers are going to be able to take down the 4th base as well, the triangle 3rd base, I'm sorry. They are going to start sniping some of these Liberators as well. Disruptors, again, I mean, they're just getting pretty consistent value. You don't need to get the biggest hits, you just need to keep your Disruptors alive and keep accruing that value. At the same time, DT's taking care of the planetary up to the north side as well. But finally, Liberators are going to force back the Stalkers.
These were some really big pickoffs, and HARSTEM just abusing the mobility of these Stalkers and Disruptors, just pulling Cure left and right. Cure having a quite difficult time splitting up his army correctly, and now it's has forced Cure to move out into the middle, where I'm sure he doesn't want to be, as all these Disruptors just blowing up everything.
Oh man. Look at that. Liberators are going to siege up. Now, I have to give props to Cure. If I were in his position, sieging and unsieging every half a second, I would get so tired. I would just GG. Like, that's just so much counter micro. And speaking of which, GG is called. HARSTEM is going to take game number 1.
Alright, so a great game 1 victory for HARSTEM. I think on paper coming in, I think a lot of people would have favored Cure there. But HARSTEM picking up a win for his team is going to be huge, especially since they were behind to start off this series. And if he can win this, if HARSTEM can win this second game, it's going to tie up the score 3-3. And that is going to force a ace match between these two players. And it'll be interesting to see if that does happen, and also be interesting to see which players these teams field out as their ace player.
Yeah, that last game really surprised me. I guess HARSTEM was, sticking to his guns. He thought to himself, hey, I've kept Cure on 4.5 sort of bases for this long. It can't be much longer, and he just stuck to the Stalker Disruptor count. And he made it work. He really did. Cure was finally bleeding out in the last few minutes, where he had to push out across the map, and it just wasn't working out. So very, very well played by HARSTEM.
Yeah, for sure. I was getting a little worried because of him staying on that Blink Stalker Disruptor army composition for quite some time, but he eventually did pull Kier out of position a couple of times and just kind of frazzled him. Was able to just get some massive pickoffs in the end there, and also loved his like building cannons and proxy gateways out in the middle of nowhere just to get better reinforcements and better defender's advantage.
Yeah, who needs warp prisms, right? Like, he's ditching that Robotech. He's going straight for gateway tech.
Yeah. And
speaking of tech, he will be going for the Stargate as his opener once again here.
Yep. I mean, it worked out quite well in the previous game, so looks like HARSTEM is gonna potentially repeat that.
So Kier is going for a pretty common 3 racks opener, but maybe, I don't know, I'm just thinking a potential thought process going on in HARSTEM's head is like, hey, my probe has been up here, it's trapped up here, and I haven't seen a factory yet. Maybe Kier is building a barracks on the low ground, because I guess I can't really say, but I feel like it's not that common to have higher tech production facilities on the low ground, such as a starport and a factory. But in any case, HARSTEM is going to try to confirm what's going on with this Adept Shade. So I think, can't really tell. I think maybe it did see the barracks with the tech lab. I'm not sure though.
Yeah, the range on those Adept Shade are 2. So it looks like there has been confirmation.
Yeah.
And he does.
Okay, so he does confirm it. I believe he saw the tech lab earlier and was just trying to confirm whether or not it was a barracks.
Right. And this is going to turn out really well for HARSTEM because he has elected to go for Adepts instead of Phoenixes. Had he gone for Phoenixes, it would have left him a bit more vulnerable to this 3 ranks push.
Right.
But with going for Oracles, I mean, I guess it depends. You know, if you can kind of trap your opponent with stasis wards, stasis traps out in the middle, then that could really help out, buy you enough time for additional warpins and as well as your shield batteries. And also Pulsar Beam can help clear out some of those Marines. But all in all, this should bode well for HARSTEM. He's gonna know what's coming, and he also gonna have enough time to prepare for it.
Yep, that Adept is going to head on home, report the news. HARSTEM, of course, is going to try to come in here with the Oracle, try to get some damage, actually. So there is no missile turret, there are no residual Marines back here. Of course, they were all sent across the map. Now, a couple of reinforcing Marines pop out from the barracks, but oh, these Oracles! Wow, HARSTEM's just showing off at this point. He does take care of the Marines, and he still has enough energy to spare. At the same time, the 3 racks push has reached the other side of the map. Shield battery overcharge was popped. So it looks like here is going to be held off at least for the first stim.
Yeah, so great play there by HARSTEM. I mean, the best play. I mean, you know, Oracle's not quite the most useful thing to leave at home against this. You know, just stick with 2 bases and just take control of the high ramp and rely on your shield batteries and force fields as well. So just an overall good, solid defense there by HARSTEM. And now he's gonna potentially give chase. Nope. Go ahead and rethink about that, and smartly does retreat. And now just gonna go ahead and start establishing that 3rd base. He has defended, and now he also dealt out damage across the map with those Oracles. And now he's gonna go ahead and tech up and macro up with Colossus and that 3rd Nexus.
You know, I don't think I've ever seen a 3 racks, like, just basically countered as hard as that. Maybe I'm not watching enough pro games, but that was pretty well played, I have to say. You know, the 2 Oracles, and then of course keeping both of them alive. That was really the cherry on top for me. Okay, so a nice tag with the Oracle. This time Cure does have more Marauders, he does have +1 attack, he's going to have Concussive Shell, and he's going to have a couple of Medivacs to reinforce, so this is going to hit a little bit harder. On the other hand, HARSTEM does have higher tech himself as well, of course being those Phoenixes, which are excellent spotters, in addition with the Oracle, as well as the Colossus tech.
Yeah, so army positioning is going to be able to be in the right position just based off of that, scouting there with the Revelation and those Phoenixes. Phoenixes parked at the left side to make sure there's no Doom drop of some sort. And oh my god, that Observer.
Okay, so the Bio is going to start sharking around, trying to catch the Colossi out of position. Oh, one of them going a little bit forward. Does get pulled back into time. The Bio is going to go up onto the high ground, take care of the shield batteries this time. Widow Mines are already in place on the lower ground. Phoenixes, oh, look at that. They're giving chase to a literally 1 health Medivac. Finally, it does go down. At the same time, though, we did see a few probes going down. I think that might have been either the Marines up front or something else. I'm not too sure, but yeah, these Colossi are finally going to get targeted, but actually not in time. The force fields are decent, I think. I'm not sure if they were useful, actually. But in any case, the Bio does get taken care of. Cure overstepping a little bit and getting punished for it.
Yeah, and really, Cure needed to find much more damage than that. I mean, his dirt base is super late, only now being thrown down. And HARSTEM still has his 3 Nexuses up and running. And now he has 3 Colossuses, so Cure not being able to find that critical damage that he needed to off of a very 2 base committed push compared to, let's say, if he went for the dirt base earlier on and this was just a harassment poke here. And yeah, it looks like HARSTEM is starting to stabilize, picking off reinforcements, and his vision is just so vast here. His army split as well, and oh, I don't see this doing any damage.
Oh no, Cure, please. Oh, this is so. Oh man, GG is gonna be called HARSTEM. Look at him. He's so happy. He just took 2 games off of Cure.